Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Geeks and Noobs podcast. I am your host, Superbeard Vince Hoover, and I am joined by the Ginger Ninja Jaxpo over here. As you can see, my other co-host, Kel McCosplay, is not here today. Unfortunately, his daughter has the flu, so he's taking care of her and his family. So everybody, all well wishes to Kel and his daughter on their recovery, because I think he's probably starting to get some of that sickness as well, unfortunately. But hopefully he'll be back next week. We wish him all the best. Take all the time you need, my brother. But yes, welcome to the show. If you're on Twitch, please hit that follow button. If you're feeling ever so generous, please subscribe. If you have a Prime subscription, use that. Make Jeffrey Bezos pay for it and stick it to the billionaires. If you're over on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. If you're on Kick, which we are there as well, please follow there as well. And on Facebook, hit that share button, thumbs up button, all that good jazz. You know what to do on social media. Jax, how are you doing, sir?
Drink up, fucker.
I'm doing fantastic.
We already got to hydrate. I already got to hydrate. All right.
What's up, Matt Ward? What's going on, buddy?
How's it going? No, that's not the same type of
pretty good day.
That's not the same type of hydration as your watch along from Backlash, is it?
Yeah, that was a fun one.
What you remember of it, anyways. Nothing much, just relaxing. That's good, Matt. Good to hear you relaxing. Glad you're going to relax here with us. As we're talking about something now, if you saw the title of wherever you're watching this, if you saw the title of the stream, I kind of pose a loaded question. Is the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy the greatest comic book trilogy of all time? Now, of course, you have high contenders. You have the Dark Knight trilogy. You have Captain America's trilogy. You have the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. You have Tom Holland's Spider-Man films.
You got Blade.
The Blade trilogy.
I like Blade trilogies. I'm just going to throw that out there. I like them.
I like watching Blade Trinity, the third one, because it's one of those, it's so bad it's good. Like, the first one's just a great film. Like,
yeah.
Even though he does say that stupid line is some motherfuckers just like to just try to ice skate uphill. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
But, like, and, like,
sense.
the blood tornado thing was weird, but, like, all in all, great film. The second one, I think, is even better. I think the introduction of that, like, hybrid vampire and, like, the tension between it. Plus, you get Ron Perlman, who's always great. Great.
Always.
Yeah, and then you get, in Blade Trinity, you get Triple H as a vampire.
You get a Chihuahua. Coach Ron, hello, sir. How's baseball and softball going?
Coach Ron, thank you for checking in.
Thank
you for checking in earlier today, by the way. I appreciate that, sir. Much appreciated.
Off subject.
Mm-hmm.
My nephew won his championship or his tournament this weekend.
Right on. And I believe his namesake team right now is playing the Yankees. I'm double checking that just to make sure. Yep. It's currently 0-0 at the end of the fourth, but Rays are doing well. So yes, go ahead. Thank you, Ron, once again. But, like, you have, like, there's quite a few trilogies, obviously. I mean, you have the Iron Man trilogy, but, I mean, obviously, Iron Man 3 is not well regarded, nor is 2. Although, I actually like 2. Like, I went back and watched 2 again. In Iron Man 2, like, yes, Mickey Rourke makes some choices. Let's be real. But, like, Sam Rockwell's fantastic in it. We get the briefcase suit, the briefcase suit up on the racetrack. That racetrack scene and all is just really cool. Like,
Iron Man 2 doesn't get
it gets a little bit more hate than it deserves. Yeah, exactly. It gets a little bit too much hate as far as I'm concerned. 3, I can kind of understand because they kind of really butchered the Mandarin situation. Although I did like the twist up until the very end, like the twist of it being somebody who was hired to pretend to be a terrorist, and having Ben Kingsley, because Ben Kingsley in those vignettes is terrifying. And then to be an out of work alcoholic actor from from England, like it was. I thought that was cool, but then the whole
They
Guy
still
Pearce
muffed it
thing. Yeah, at the end they really did, but it's not that bad. But I expected more out of Shane Black. But you got the Thor has 4 movies, and I still to this day I will defend Love and Thunder. I actually like that movie a whole lot.
Love and Thunder is great.
I love that movie.
Fight,
I will fight anybody on that. I don't understand the hate that it's getting. Ant-Man now has a trilogy, and I think again is a great trilogy. I don't know why people are crapping on Quantumania because it was too by the book. It was too cookie. What do you mean?
You know what we look for?
Like, they have a formula for good movies, and then you bitch when they get away from the formula, and then you bitch when they go back to the formula. Pick a lane, bro. But after watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, for me, now Ginger has not seen it, but of course he does not care about spoilers, and we'll dive deeper into the actual like spoiler stuff later in the episode. I want to talk about just the series in general at first. But after watching, to me, what is a 9 out of 10 film, I have one major critique of the whole film, and that's the portrayal of Adam Warlock. And it's not even that big of a deal. It's kind of nitpicky because I understand where they were going with it and where the character is going to go. Like, he's going to get where I see him being. Like, they projected him to get to what I expect out of Adam Warlock. We just didn't get it in this film. But they literally tell you he was hatched early. The High Evolutionary pulled him out of his cocoon too soon, and he's basically an infant in a full-size man with massive power. So again, that bothered me a little bit, but again, they in the story explain it, and they show you by the end that he is growing and will grow further and will become the character we expect. I expect Will Poulter to be around for a long time as Adam Warlock. So
he's
that
a good pick
said,
for Adam Warlock too.
At first, I didn't think so. Seeing him in the role, I'm like, yeah, that works. It works. But I said the same thing about Robert Pattinson as the Batman.
Yeah,
people were up in arms over that, but that movie to me is, it's fantastic and one of the best portrayals of Batman we have. The amount of acting he does with just his eyes in the cowl
is ridiculous.
It's ridiculously good. So yeah, I'm all for Robert Pattinson as Batman. But you go back to the first Guardians of the Galaxy film before it came out. First off, James Gunn wasn't known for a ton at that point. He had done the first 2 Scooby-Doo live-action movies. He had done a couple like independent films, one of them being Super, with what's his name? The guy who plays Dwight in The Office. And Elliot Page, before transitioning, was in that film as well. And it's about a guy who has a girlfriend way out of his league. She leaves him for Kevin Bacon's character. He gets this weird, he gets hit in the head and he thinks he has this vision from God that he needs to become a vigilante superhero. And he goes around basically killing people with wrenches and stuff. But it's called Super. It's actually a really good film. But he hadn't really done much on the super big budget side of things. Like Scooby-Doo had a decent budget and everything, but like Guardians, it was a big jump to go into the MCU. Even though it was still early on, it was towards the end of Phase 2. You know, it was a big jump to go into something that big budget, and then to do it with characters that nobody had really heard of, much less cared about.
I was going to go with more less cared about because when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, I was like, what the fuck? They're getting a movie?
See, for me, I actually was one of the few people like in the early to mid 90s.
I'm glad they got movies now. But first I was like, really?
Well, I had actually collected the Guardians of the Galaxy comics in the early to mid 90s. But even the team that I had wasn't the team we got on screen. Like I got it was more the Guardian, who is Yondu, but as like a Superman like character, and like the character that Sylvester Stallone plays, and a lot of so the team that shows up in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with Sylvester Stallone and all that. That's the team in the comics, not Star-Lord and Gamora and Drax and Rocket. Like, well, Rocket was part of it, but this was a more a newer, more niche version of the Guardians that he was pulling from.
Yeah.
And that made it even more interesting. But what it did is it gave him so much freedom. Because even your hardcore comic book fans were kind of like, I know of them, I don't really know about them. So he had carte blanche to just make the film he wanted to make. And we got Guardians of the Galaxy. And what did that movie do?
I thought was phenomenal.
It's so good. It is so good. But it actually changed cinema moving forward. Like, you know how The Matrix changed the way action movies were done, and all of a sudden every action film had to have that
slow
motion, bullet time, pause, go around bullshit.
Yeah.
Now every movie has to have a jukebox soundtrack.
I love the jukebox soundtrack, though.
When it's done right.
Yeah, it has to be done right.
James Gunn talked about
it in there.
Exactly, and here's the difference. When James Gunn writes a script, he writes the lyrics to the songs down in the script to fit the scene. And that's why it works. He actually actively thinks about the music as he's writing the script. Whereas most movies, they write a script, they shoot the movie, and then they just try to force commercial music into it. And that's where they get it wrong, where he gets it right.
Yeah, he gets it right pretty damn well.
Yeah, he nails it. And that first film was groundbreaking in multiple accounts. It was the first real cosmic adventure for the MCU. We had teased.
I mean, we've touched with outer space.
Yeah, we touched,
but never
on it.
Gone fully into it.
Yeah, like the closest we got was Asgard because they're an alien race.
Yeah,
but they pretty much stuck to just Asgard or Earth. And then you teased outer space with the aliens and Avengers. You teased it some more with Doctor Strange and the different dimensions and stuff, and Dormammu.
Mm-hmm.
But Guardians of the Galaxy... Well, actually, I think Doctor Strange came after Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. It did. Guardians of the Galaxy was that first real dive into the cosmos. And we got a band of characters that we instantly kind of fell in love with. Like, you know, Chris Pratt's Star-Lord. You know, Bradley Cooper's Rocket Raccoon. Vin Diesel's Groot. Which to this day I still say it's his greatest role ever.
I'll say this. When I first heard the cast for Guardians of the Galaxy, I was like, how in the fuck are they going to pull this off?
Yeah. Dave Bautista as Drax. Which, by the way...
To me, it was just like... But he's made me believe he's Drax.
Not only that, I think Dave Bautista is, to me, hands down the greatest wrestler turned actor we've ever gotten.
When it comes to diversity, yes.
Well, I think in skill. Because The Rock, as great as he is, he plays The Rock in every movie.
Yeah.
John Cena,
go see Guardians of the Galaxy. And then go see Knock at Cabin.
Yeah, Knock at the Cabin. Go
look at Dave Bautista's performance.
And then go watch Blade Runner 2099 or 2049.
Yeah.
And then go watch Dune. You will get 4 drastically different characters. I think John Cena has a bit more range than, say, The Rock. But it's still kind of like, oh, that's John Cena. Like, Bautista, as big as he is, and he's a big motherfucker, he gets lost in a role. And it's really cool to see, and I'm really happy for him and excited for what he can do. And it's a lot of, you know, like he posted that kind of, you know, that giveaway or that kind of like goodbye to Drax post the other day.
Yeah.
How he'll be forever grateful for the doors that opened for him. And not that, like, okay, I'll say it now, spoilers ahead. I'm gonna take a quick jump on spoilers. We're gonna jump ahead for a moment because we're on the topic of Dave Bautista. A lot of us thought, like, almost like we were all like 100% certain that Drax was going to die in this film because Dave had made it very clear that this is the end of the road for Drax. He's never coming back. He's done with the character. That's it. Okay, so, and James Gunn has never had a problem with killing off characters. Watch the Suicide Squad. Watch the Suicide Squad. He makes you fall in love with Polka Dot Man and then kills him.
Fucking love Polka Dot Man. Justice for Polka Dot Man. Hashtag justice for Polka Dot Man.
He brought life to Rick Flag and then killed him. Captain Boomerang was arguably the best character from the original Suicide Squad movie and killed him off immediately. So yeah, like, he has no problem killing people off. So you're thinking, okay, yeah, he's going to kill off Drax. Not only does he not kill off Drax, Drax has a role that is so important for the future of that character and the characters around him. But you never need to see him again. He's put in a place where he could stay away. Like, you can bring him up and talk, but you don't actually have to bring Bautista back to the role. Like, it'll just be there. And part of that is, I'll just say the line that Nebula said, "You were never meant to be Drax the Destroyer. You were meant to be Drax the Dad."
Aww.
Yeah, and like, yeah, by the way, when you go see the third movie, you will cry a lot. I'm gonna put it out there. As Kel so mistakenly said, bring your box of tears. He meant to say box of Kleenex. Yeah, it's a tear fest, and it's incredible. But, you know, like, we got, you know, Gamora, Nebula, just this motley crew of characters in the first film that come together very reluctantly, but find a family together.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to build on that in the second one. And I think, to me, like, the second one is the one that I think people, like, if you had to look at the 3 plus the holiday special, I think Volume 2 is at the bottom for everybody. For most people, it's at the bottom of the tier list anyways. Not saying it's bad, but it's the one that people put at the bottom of least favorite to favorite out of the 4.
Okay.
I think it very similarly to Iron Man 2 doesn't get the love that it deserves. And I think that it
Now you
go ahead.
You've seen all 3.
Yes.
What is your tier list?
3, 1, 2. Well, actually,
3,
3 holiday special, 1, 2.
Okay.
But
yeah, the holiday special is amazing.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. But for me, that tier list is almost a flat line. Like, it's not like ... They're all like right on top of each other. Like, it's
very close.
Yeah, from a distance it looks like a straight line. Like, that's how close they are. But if I would have to I understand putting 2 at the bottom because, like, the first one is so groundbreaking and so amazing in setting the team up. This third one, to me, could be the best MCU film to date. Not just Guardians film, but MCU film to date.
Really?
So that's why it's definitely number 1 for me. What he did with the holiday special was phenomenal.
Oh, it was great.
And I can't even tell you how many times I've watched it. And he's able...
Yeah. Hello, my beautiful bearded friends.
Tommy!
What is up, Tommy?
So the holiday special, and he's able to build off the holiday special in the third movie. In fact, while it's not, like, super important to have seen the holiday special, the fact that the Mantis and Star-Lord are brother and sister, if you haven't seen a holiday special, like, they bring it up, it's so like, hey, he's your brother. You talk to him. Like, it's just like, wait, what do you mean? Like, if you had not seen the holiday special, you would be so confused. And he was able to build off
The
that.
holiday special plays a big role. Like,
Yeah.
From what I understand, it plays a huge role
In all of it. In all of it. It really, really does. Plus the birth of Cosmo. In fact, there's in one of the post-credit scenes, you see somebody reading a newspaper article about Kevin Bacon telling all about being abducted by aliens, which is great. So it's like, even though it's a supplemental thing to the trilogy, it's very important. And again, to me, it goes Volume 3, Holiday Special, Volume 1, Volume 2. But they're all very, very close. Because I love Volume 2. I love Kurt Russell as Ego.
I liked Kurt Russell in his role.
I love almost anything Kurt Russell does. And
I love David Hasselhoff too.
Yeah, David Hasselhoff was great. I loved like seeing Sylvester Stallone and the rest of the original Guardians as Ravagers. I thought was cool. The Yondu's whole role in this was great. Baby Groot was phenomenal.
Baby Groot is amazing.
Love Baby Groot. The introduction of Mantis and how Mantis has grown as a character. By the way, there's this in part 3, there is this wonderful kind of hallway fight scene, which has kind of become like standard to superhero movies. The hallway fight scene. But this one is an extended, like almost 5-minute long fight scene with the entire team. And it's badass. But if you remember in the holiday special, we got to see some of what Mantis can do. And you got to see her be a badass. Like, instead of just being the person who would knock people out with her powers or read their emotions, she's a badass martial artist, which in the comic book she always was. Like, she's a badass fighter. You get to see that in the holiday special somewhat, when she's fighting the cops and taking them out and all that stuff. But you really get to see it in part 3. And that was really cool to see them all working together. There's a lot of, like, I think something else that James Gunn does really well with this series, that I think, like, Marvel does this, but I don't think they do it enough, is the little subplots. So, like, the little side stories that eventually tie into the bigger story. Like, and this is not a huge spoiler, but I'll talk about part 3 because it's really stuck in my head. Kraglin, who now has the Yondu's arrow, he's still trying to master it. And early on in the film, he's trying to use it, accidentally ends up stabbing Nebula. And Cosmo, Cosmo, the space dog. She's like, it's not that hard, because they had built this little, like, test track for him to, like, zoom it around like targets. She uses her telepathy to send a rock to do it. And Kraglin gets so mad he calls her a bad dog. And she loses her shit. She's like, you take that back. You take that back right now. And throughout the whole film, she is constantly trying to get him to take that back. And he's like, no, because you're a bad dog. And it's just a little it's a little funny thing. But by the end of the film, we have a moment where she does something amazing. And he's just like, that's because you're a good dog. And you see, like, this, like, wave of emotion. Like, I'm almost tearing up thinking, like, describing it because of how, because you can see her get happy. Kraglin accept her as part of the family. This whole thing. So, something else that James Gunn did, and this I don't think was really his idea. It was more of like what Kevin Feige had kind of asked him to do. But he introduced the Infinity Stones. Like, they really got a much better description in the first Guardians film.
Yeah.
And then we learn, we get like the whole dance-off scene. We get the part where they're holding the stone because he is part celestial. So, he has godlike powers at the time. And they were able, and from there, we explored that further in part 2 when we meet his father, Ego, who is a celestial. All this stuff. the building blocks of what James Gunn did with not only what he wanted to do, but was what he kind of had to do to fit into the universe was really cool. And I almost feel like Disney kind of like really dropped the ball when they fired him over those decade-old tweets.
Yeah.
And gave
That just prove anything you put on the internet will bite you in the ass eventually.
Yeah, it's very true. It basically, in the long run, it kind of saved DC because him being fired gave him the opportunity to do Suicide Squad and Peacemaker.
Yes.
And on top of that,
amazing.
yes, Peacemaker is one of the best TV shows ever. Now he's in charge of DC, the DCU. And I think Marvel, like, that's where Marvel, like, well, not Marvel, it was Disney. It was over their heads, but, like, he was supposed to be in charge of the whole cosmic MCU, like, the whole cosmic side of things. Like, what he had planned originally for Volume 3 is not what we see on the screen because of what happened in Infinity War and Endgame. Like, he never wanted Gamora to die. Like, that wasn't his call. Like, her being sacrificed by Thanos, that wasn't his call.
Yeah.
And he wasn't happy about it.
I'm stoked to see what he's going to do with the MCU.
The
or with the DCU.
Yeah. I'm super excited. Now, there's a lot of rumors around that. Like, apparently Bradley Cooper is going to be his Batman. But, again, don't believe what you read on the internet because there's nothing actually behind that. That's literally just somebody on Facebook pulling random words out of a literally not even a quote, but random words out of an article to make a quote. But I know that, like, he has a lot of favorite, like, people love working with him.
I can see why. It seems like it's fun. Like, I've watched some of the behind the scenes stuff on some of the movies he's done, and he seems just to have fun.
Yeah, right? Like, you know, like, so, like, in the beginning of Volume 2, when they play Mr. Blue Skies and Baby Groot's dancing around while they're fighting that thing in the background. Forgot what they're called. That's him dancing. That's James Gunn dancing. He also choreographed the opening of Peacemaker, which is, by the way, greatest television opening of all time. I will never skip it ever. I watch it every time.
So good.
He choreographed that. Like, you just, like, so, like, he has fun. And, like, I know some people want to play the whole nepotism card about him, you know, casting his wife in things.
So?
But, so what? Like, that's kind of like, Hollywood's
Tim
always
Burton
been like that.
does the same shit.
Everybody does. Michael Rooker has been in everything he's ever done. Because he's James Gunn's best friend. Like, that's just what it is. So in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, his wife does have a small cameo. So does Daniela Corleone? She plays Ratcatcher 2 in the Suicide Squad.
I know who you're talking about. I can't put my name on her finger on her name, but I know who you're talking about.
But yeah, she has a role in the film because she did the role. She tested well for Ratcatcher 2. He loved her. They became friends, and now he's gonna put, like, how so many directors put their, like, how many times has Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro worked together, or Al Pacino?
Adam Sandler's made a whole career of putting his friends in movies.
Yeah, like, that's just how that works. Why would you not work with people you love? Like, oh, I love working with this person. I get the most out of them. They make it fun. Why would you not cast them in more things?
It just another reason to bitch.
Yeah, it's crazy. Which, weirdly enough, I did find out, totally random fact. In the upcoming Martin Scorsese film, Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio are in it. They've both, like, so Leonardo DiCaprio has been in, I think, 10 Martin Scorsese films, and Robert De Niro has been in, like, 12 or 13. This is the first time they've ever worked together on one.
Really?
Yeah, it's the first time they've ever shared screen time. Interesting. But, I mean, the same thing goes, like, look at Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan works with Tom Hardy and Cillian Murphy, and, like, he works with, like, in Hollywood, that's just how it is. You find people that you like to work with, and you keep working with them. Because again, why wouldn't you? That would be like, it's the equivalent of you hiring people at your job
that I don't like to work with,
and then you fire them because, well, your time is done at the end of the week, and I got to bring in new people. No, you keep the people that are good. You get rid of the people that are bad. Same in Hollywood.
Exactly.
It's like, no, I enjoy working with these people. They're great actors. I get the most out of them, and we have fun. We have similar in an artistic endeavor. When you have similar visions, when you can talk to somebody and they get what you're saying, why would you not work with that person again?
Yeah.
I mean, hell, technically, Sylvester Stallone has been now in 3 James Gunn movies because he's the voice of King Shark in the Suicide Squad, and he's in Volume 2 and
characters in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he's so great. And he's in Volume 2 and Volume 3 of Guardians of the Galaxy.
That was the return in Volume 3.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a big return there. So, and actually you get to see him use his powers in this one too for a little bit, which is really cool. Really cool.
Yes.
Really, really cool. Just that moment of him like kind of powered up with the it's cool. But I think what happened, again, he took obscure characters. He did the same thing in the Suicide Squad. He took obscure characters, makes you fall in love with them, and takes them from D or lower list characters to A-list characters based purely on his writing. And that's why I'm excited for what's to come for DC, because he gets it. You know what I mean?
He's a fan that understands it, and it's going to be exciting what he does with the DC.
Yeah.
I am 100% excited about it.
He's literally writing Superman.
You can't tell, I might be a little bit of a DC fan.
Yeah, a little bit.
So to see someone like that get his hands on some of my characters, some of the superheroes that I love. I'm not saying I'm not a Marvel fan. I'm a Marvel fan, but my roots are DC. So to finally see, hopefully get its comeuppance in the movies and in cinema, I'm on board for.
He's talked about his Superman is about, you know, his balance between his humanity and his Kryptonian heritage, but the basis of the character is one of hope and goodwill and doing what's right. Like, you know, when everybody bitches about Superman, he's the big blue Boy Scout. That's what he's going to give us. He's going to give us the big blue Boy Scout in a way that we can all agree, you know, like enjoy. I don't think his costume will be muted, you know, like the Man of Steel costume, which Henry Cavill was a great Superman, don't get me wrong. But like aesthetically, it was that very muted costume, the very muted color grading and everything. Superman? Yeah, it was just very, And I think that we're going to get a bright blue and red and yellow costume. Maybe even the underwear on the outside. Fingers crossed.
Which I'm all for. Come on,
I'm all for it. Yeah, give it to me classic. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And I as much hope as I had before when they announced James Gunn is heading over to DC, after watching Volume 3, I couldn't be more excited. Because like I said, and I mean this was all, there's no hyperbole at all, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 could very well be the greatest comic book movie to date. The way, like, first off, if you look on the surface of the first 2 films and even the holiday special, you think Star-Lord is the main character, right? It's about him.
Yeah.
You quickly realize it's not, and that Rocket is the true heart of the story with everything that goes on. You get a villain out of the High Evolutionary who legitimately is just a bad guy. Like, you understand his reasoning, but you certainly do not sympathize. Like, he's just a bad guy. the dynamic between the team is really cool because like you can tell like there's a lot of like they've been through a lot. Like obviously, the blip and Infinity War and Endgame and all the stuff they went through. The fact that Nebula and Rocket were the only ones to not be blipped away.
Yeah.
Like the impact it has on them and how close they got. You actually get a lot more emotion out of Nebula in this one. We get by the way, we get our first ever F-bomb in the MCU in this film. In such
hear about that.
In such a casual, nonchalant way, but it fits perfectly. And apparently it wasn't even meant to happen. It was Chris Pratt kind of like improvising in the scene.
And it stuck.
And it was like it just fit. But like I said, my only gripe is the Adam Warlock. But again, like I said, it's not a huge gripe because I understand what they were going for and where the character's going. Like it'll get to where I want him to be. It was that kind of starting phase. And that's the one mistake that like James Gunn talked about. He had kind of wished he had never so if you remember at the end of the first Guardians where there's that post-credit scene where it goes around the Collector's kind of destroyed room and Howard the Duck's there and you see that cocoon that was supposed to tease Adam Warlock. Well, that wasn't how it worked because then we had the actual tease at the end of part 2 where she talked about Adam, her cocoon
in front of the cocoon capsule thing,
which by the way, again, spoilers everybody, but it's in the fucking thumbnail. Yeah, Aisha bites the big one in this, which Adam sees her as mother. Like he calls her mother the whole time. Because like I said, he's kind of infantile. He's literally only been out for a few days, I think, at this point, or a few months or something. Yeah, so in the trailer, you see them kind of show up on this planet that looks like a 1980s Earth. But it's all like alien or animal humanoids in the trailer, where Drax ends up throwing the dodgeball in the kid's face. That's what's called Counter Earth. And Counter Earth in the comics is actually on the other side of the sun on an exact opposite rotation as Earth. That the High Evolutionary tries to build his perfect society on.
Yeah.
This is obviously somewhere way deeper in the galaxy, but he calls it Counter Earth because he had visited Earth and found that the art and the beauty of the society was there, but the beings were completely flawed. And so he took that culture, and it just so happened to be like the 80s, right around the time that Peter Quill was taken off of Earth, so it feels familiar to Peter. But apparently he felt like even though he thought he built the perfect society, nope, they're not perfect yet. I got a new version 2.0 or whatever to come. He just wipes out the whole fucking planet. When I tell you this dude is evil, he just first off, James Gunn makes you care about these people because one of the people helped them and she's got a family, and even though they don't speak English, she tries her best to kind of explain they're trying to explain what they need. And they eventually get to it. But this woman literally, she's trying to help him. He just wipes the whole planet. And in the process, Aisha's ship is on the planet, and she's not able to launch before it explodes. So she dies right in front of Adam Warlock, which of course pisses him off. But so James Gunn's not afraid to kill, but every Guardian of the Galaxy survives. Amazingly enough, in this film, they all survive. We also get...
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting one.
No, I was not either. I really expected Drax, if not also Rocket, to die. But Rocket instead when I tell you that he is the heart of the series. And after watching that film, I went back and watched the others, just like you did. The hints are there that he really is the heart of it. And Peter retires as Star-Lord at the end.
Shit.
And he goes home to see his grandpa. He goes back to Earth for the first time.
Really?
Yeah. Like, yeah, he's there for the
Now,
fight
is
with
this the
Thanos and
Earth
Ingo.
Is it
Our
the
Earth.
same
Our
Earth that Thanos
Now,
snapped?
it's 2026 Earth, but it's
Okay.
Earth. It's 2026 Earth. So his grandfather's like 90, but he's still alive. Now, it does say at the end of the film, the mighty Star-Lord will return. This is a big hint because there's a Star-Lord run called the Mighty Star-Lord, which is very interesting. So we may get like a television series or a movie series where Star-Lord's on his own.
Okay.
But
Kind of like how they've done with Hawkeye and
yeah, exactly.
the Falcon and Winter Soldier
Yes.
and shit like that.
But in the meantime, when he retires, he makes Rocket the captain and thus the head of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And Nebula retires too. She's like, I'm going to stay on Nowhere and run. She becomes like basically the mayor of Nowhere because they took over in the holiday special. Drax also stays behind because one thing they did when they were fighting the High Evolutionary, when I told you he was making his 2.0,
Yeah.
they were all kids. Like, they were still growing. So they're all like 8 to 12 years old, these kids. So they save all those kids. Drax is the only one able to speak to them and relate to them. And this is where the Drax the dad comes in. So he's going to stay on Nowhere to help raise these kids. So again, the character doesn't die, but we never have to see him again because he's busy on Nowhere raising the kids.
Yeah, he's off,
And
he's
Nebula-
like El Generico. He's off doing his thing.
Yeah, he's off doing his thing, building orphanages. Nebula will be running Nowhere, but because she'll be able to be on call. But we get a new guard at the end of the movie. We get a new Guardians of the Galaxy team. So it's Rocket Raccoon, which, by the way, when he gets back to the High Evolutionary ship, there's a ton of flashbacks throughout the movie. By the way, explaining how he became who he was. He finally sees his old cage, and it says his entire genus, common name Raccoon, and he finally accepts that his name is Rocket Raccoon.
Oh,
which is a
thank God.
really cool moment. So we got Rocket Raccoon as your leader. We got Alpha Groot, who's massive now, because at this point, when they show the team again, it's been a couple years, and he's gigantic. Adam Warlock, Kraglin, Cosmo, and Fayetteville, otherwise known as Questar. She's one of the girls that was saved from the ship. She just so happens to have powers from the cosmic bands. Or the Quasar bands, sorry. The Quasar bands. Not the cosmic bands, those are different. That's what Miss Marvel has, we saw in the series. And that will lead into the Marvels. She has the Quasar bands. Different thing. So we get a new team. And it's really cool. So the Guardians of the Galaxy can continue on, just like they do in the comics, where a new team takes up the mantle. So this isn't necessarily the end of it. It's the end of the James Gunn run for now. Like, who's to say he doesn't come back? Who's to say that maybe he decides that he has...
Never say that.
He does like 5 or 10 years with DC and then decides to come back. You never know.
Never know.
But he's also laid the groundwork, so it's kind of hard to screw it up. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying it can't be screwed up. You can screw it up.
But it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, like... And I
Well,
also
Beard,
think
I don't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
And I know you've loved talking about Guardians. But you haven't told anyone about our sponsor tonight, buddy.
Oh my God, you are right, sir, and I am so sorry about that. And it's crazy because our sponsor is Marvel Strike Force, which currently just got a Guardians of the Galaxy update as of yesterday. Marvel Strike Force is a mobile RPG game. If you hit ! Marvel in the chat, you can get the link. I'm going to play it after stream. I'm going to take like a 10-minute break, set everything up, and then I'm going to come right back on. I'm going to play the game so you can see how it is in person. It is a lot of fun. Make sure you check it out. So again, it's Marvel, !Marvel to get the link for Marvel Strike Force. You can play it right now on your phone, and it's free. And what's one of the cool things too, and as I played through the game last night, they have, like, of course you can buy upgrades if you want. Like, every game has pay for play. However, they have a system intact where you can earn these certain points that replace money.
Okay.
So you can actually earn ways to buy the stuff without actually spending any money. So you don't miss out on certain things that other people are like, oh, that's not fair that I have to pay. Like, they have a system in ways that you wouldn't have to necessarily pay for things. You can still get it, which is really cool.
Good.
And the characters are endless. Like, there's so many characters. You get to be heroes and villains. It's got its own unique story. But like, the main threat is a guy named Ultimus who's trying to take over the entire multiverse. So you get, like I said, you get heroes and villains alike. Everybody starts with Spider-Man, which is great because Spider-Man's fun. But then you get all kinds of different characters. Yeah, you get different characters along the way. In fact, I have Mantis on my team on my phone. So we'll see what I get when I play it tonight, because I'm going to be starting from scratch on the PC so you guys can see it. See how it goes. But yeah, just get to, like, the main goal is level 5, but our secondary goal is level 20. It took me an hour and a half last night to get to level 20. There's nothing to it, and it's super easy, super fun. There's great little, like, side quests, like blitzes and challenges and stuff, so definitely check that out.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. Matter of fact, I'll put it in the chat, because for some reason it hasn't popped up yet.
So, all in all, Guardians of the Galaxy gets a 9 out of 10 super beard rating.
Absolutely.
It's
and
9
that's
out
me
of 10 beard is what we're going to start.
Yeah,
that's the new judging scale. 9 out of 10 beards.
9 out of 10 beards. And, like, that's me being hypercritical of it. Because, like, when I left the film, I wanted to give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
But really breaking it down, like, I was like, you know what? Like, I did have, like, yeah, the Adam Warlock thing was a bit of a thing. Everything else, though, I absolutely loved. And, like, so for a bit of backstory, James Gunn was not happy with the way they treated the Guardians in Infinity War and Endgame. That wasn't his call. He didn't like Gamora dying. He didn't like Star-Lord punching Thanos and almost, destroying the entire universe kind of thing. He has, like, a meta line about that. He had, like, you can, the kind of passive-aggressive attack on the Russos is funny. And, it's got its humor. Of course it's got its humor. Like, but this is really just, it's a powerful, powerful film. Lots of tears. It'll also make you rethink, like, it's something when the ASPCA sends out a congratulations to the movie for highlighting the reality of animal cruelty.
Well, that's good.
And I'm going to tell you what, it does. Boy, does it. If you are kind of squeamish to animal cruelty, just be prepared. Because, wow. Also, at the very end of the film, we hear... There's a running joke because Gamora's back, but it's the alternate timeline Gamora from 2014, the one that came back with Thanos.
Yeah.
So she doesn't speak Groot at this point. So she's getting pissed. And she's like, I know your name is Groot. But towards the end of the film, she starts to understand what he's saying as she kind of opens up to the team more.
So it's like getting to read No Gamora all over again.
Yeah. Yes. But at the one of the very last lines of the film before the credits and then the post-credit scenes, we hear Groot say, I love you all. Not, I am Groot.
I did
not
hear
Groot.
that.
Now,
I did hear that he finally.
what's
said
funny to
something
me
other than
is that
I am
when I left the theater, my immediate thought was, the way you understand Groot is to form a connection with him, and he allows you to understand what he's saying, which is why Peter,
Yes.
like Thor talked about it. I took a semester of Groot at Asgard as an elective, so you can be taught how to learn it. But Peter Quill had to learn through growing with Groot
With Groot.
and growing a connection. When I left the theater, my immediate thought was, oh, he didn't speak English, because they don't react like, oh my God, he just said that and it wasn't I am Groot. The audience is now connected to Groot, so we can understand what I am Groot is.
Almost like the 13th. You ever seen the 13th Warrior?
Yes.
Where
Exactly.
at the beginning they're speaking, and then they don't use subtitles.
Yep.
You slowly start to hear the English as he starts to understand what. I
The
know it's an
language,
older
yeah.
movie, and it's probably showing my age a lot. But you slowly start to understand what the foreign language that they are speaking, so you kind of learn it with him.
Yeah. It's exactly like that. So that's my thought, because again, nobody reacted like, oh my God, he just said something other than I am Groot. They heard I love you all. Now the audience can speak Groot, is what I got out of it.
Yeah.
Funny enough, in the last couple days, like, James Gunn has confirmed that's exactly what it is that you can understand, like, you have grown with the character enough to now understand what I am Groot is, and that he said I am Groot, but you understood what he meant, and it was like, I love you all.
Yeah, not only you finally get to understand him.
Yeah. By the way, when he says it, you very much hear Vin Diesel. Like, you very much, like, I heard, like, I was just waiting for him to be like, family. Family. I was just waiting on that. But
I'm family.
But it was a really cool thing. All in all, like, this trilogy, it's just, having gone back and watched it again, I'm going to go see Guardians again, possibly this weekend, when I take some time off from redoing my room. I don't see enough wrong to not, like, for me, it has to go at the top of trilogies.
Okay.
Like, because you look back at, like, the Dark Knight trilogy. Dark Knight Rises really holds that trilogy down. It's not really a good film. Like, they really did Bane dirty. The twist in it is fucked up. Like, it just wasn't great.
Bane to be a juice head. I want my steroid Bane back.
Yeah. And then, like, you go back to, like, say, the Spider-Man trilogy, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Spider-Man 3 is a hard watch. You know? But his heart wasn't in that film either, like, as a director. And he admits that. And he apologizes for it. I think the Captain America trilogy holds up pretty damn well. I think that Winter Soldier is still up there as one of the best comic book movies of all time. And I think
Winter Soldier's so damn good.
Yeah. And I think Civil War is great. But my only reason that I knock it down a notch or two is because Civil War, although called a Captain America movie, is really an Avengers movie.
I classify it more as an Avengers spin-off than a Captain America sequel.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of hurts it. Thor, in its 4 movies, there's basically 2 different sets of movies. Because Thor 1 and Thor 2 are similar, and then Thor 3 and 4 are similar. But those 2 are not the same. And Thor Dark World, I actually enjoy that film, but I very much understand why a lot of people don't. I get it. And so, like, there's such a drastic change from 1 and 2 to 3 and 4 that they almost feel like 2 separate things. Again, we talked about Blade. Trying to think of what other trilogies are out there. I mean, again, in the same vein as Thor, the Tim Burton and the Joel Schumacher Batman films, to me, although same universe, stand apart.
Yeah,
To me, that's two. It's just two separate universes.
I don't like putting them together.
No,
It hurts in my head.
You don't really have you can go all the way back to Christopher Reeve's Superman, but that's not a good trilogy. As great as the first one is, and as great as
It's not the best trilogy.
No, as great as the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 is, not the original version. Superman 3, Richard Pryor, although I love it, is a shitty film. It's a Richard Pryor vehicle that happens to have Superman in it. Although I do love the Superman versus evil Superman fight in the junkyard. And then Superman 4, Quest for Peace. Holy shit, what a film. What a terrible film.
We don't talk about that one, sir.
Yeah, that one's weird. So again, it's hard to there's not a ton of comic book trilogies, really. So it's kind of a short list to be the top of. But still, I have to put Guardians of the Galaxy at the top. I think it is, as of right now, the greatest comic book trilogy we've ever gotten. And that's not to say we couldn't get better ones. We've got other stuff coming. And I think Ant-Man and the Wasp is another one I think is solid, and it's a really good series. But I think it also doesn't hold up to the Guardians of the Galaxy. Because they're just fun. The Ant-Man and Wasp movies are fun. And I think Quantumania raised the stakes a little bit. But you get so much more invested in the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy.
I'm excited to see it. I mean...
Yeah, you're going to love it.
Like I said before we went on, I rewatched the first two and then the Christmas special. Beard's trying to get me out of my shell of going to movie theaters. I'm not the biggest fan of theater, so I procrastinate a lot. But if it's as good as you're saying it is, it might. John Wick was worth me fighting the movie theater. I guess Guardians of the Galaxy should be worth it.
I think that those rank right around the same level of greatness. As great as John Wick 4 is, I think Guardians of the Galaxy is equally as great. So it's worth going to see. And I think it's also it's still a big screen film. It's a big popcorn film. It really is visually stunning.
Should I get one of those chairs that move and vibrate and stuff?
Oh, that might actually be fun.
You seen them things in the
D box
in the theaters?
Oh no, I made the mistake of going to see Hardcore Henry, that all shot in first person movie, and sat in those seats. I almost threw up. Denise and I left 20 minutes into the film because, unfortunately, first of all, they shoot the whole movie with GoPros. Even though they're 4K GoPros, they're still GoPros. Cameras are still not to the level of the human eye. So every movement was yeah, so we left. But yeah, I made the mistake. But yeah, D-box seats are cool. This movie might actually be a lot of fun in D-box seats. If you have that option, it might be worth it.
I think my theater offers that. I don't know.
If they do, it might be worth it. It might be worth it. Because there's a lot of cool moments, a lot of explosions and the stuff going on. So it might be worth it.
Does this movie warrant a new ride that's not just a ripoff of the Tower of Terror? I'm just curious. That's the only thing Guardians of the Galaxy that pisses me off, that they could have been a little bit more original with the ride.
I agree. I would say possibly. It actually is really going to depend on what the future team is like what they got going on in the MCU moving forward. It sets up for a possibility of a much better ride. I mean, I get why they just revamped the Tower of Terror because it was already there instead of having to build a whole new ride. I get it.
Yeah.
but I think you could get a whole other, similar to like that Star Wars one, you know, where it's like you go into the room and it's like 3D vision kind of, but like you're moving.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I think the best thing they could do is go like, so at Universal Studios there's a Harry Potter and the Fantastic Journey ride, which takes you through Hogwarts. It's part 3D screen ride, part actual ride. So you're actually on a track in this dark thing. You're flying around. They've got animatronic dragons and shit. And then you got a screen where more shit happens. So it's like a mixture of the two. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
If they did something like that with the Guardians of the Galaxy, like they put you in jet packs, like Rocket makes everybody jet packs, and then you're going around and doing this, that would be I think the coolest ride you could do. I think that would be the way to do it. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, as we've said, it's a wonderful, wonderful series. Make sure you go check out the film. It's in theaters now. Go check that out. Also, don't forget about our sponsorship. I will be playing the game. I'm actually going to wait till 9:30 to go live again. So just keep out an eye on notifications. It will be on Twitch and Kick only. But keep an eye. Or no, it'll be on Twitch only. I'm not going to do it on Kick. It'll be on Twitch. So it'll be on Twitch only for that. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for our episode today. We want to thank everybody for coming on. As always, do all the social media things, like, subscribe, all that jazz.
All that fun stuff people do.
Yeah. Not 100% sure what we're going to do next week as a topic, but the week after that, where are we going to be?
We'll be in Houston, Texas, sir.
That's right. TGN Networks proudly brings to you the Geeks and Noobs podcast live from Skull Island, the home of Silverback Nate Slater.
We might talk about our road trip up there.
I think so, probably. That would probably be mostly what we talk about.
Just a night of shooting the shit.
Pretty much. That is going to be the most of it. So again, I haven't quite figured out.
AJ's got a good question. Have y'all thought about a sports movie episode?
Huh. That is a good question. I haven't yet, but I have now. It's not a bad idea.
I know me some sports movies.
If nothing else comes to light, that might be what our topic is next week. It might be what our topic is next week. Thank you for that idea, AJ. I like that. So, like I said, we're not going to raid because I'm going to come back at 9:30 and play Marvel Strike Force, our sponsor for this week, so you guys can see what the game's all about. So, yeah, give me some time to get that all set up, and we'll see you back at 9:30. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us today. Ginger, as always, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, as always. It's always
tomorrow
fun.
Night, Friday Night Fight Night, SmackDown Live, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be live right here on TGN Network, so make sure you don't miss out. See y'all later.
Figure out who's going to face Seth Rollins.
Yeah, this is a big episode. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Peace.